Hi, Garden Rebels. Hey, I want to share with you a project that I'm tackling today. It's actually kind of fun. It's vegetable gardening, particularly some tips and tricks on growing a tomato. I get lots of questions this time of year. Is it okay to plant right now? Yes, it is. Rule number one is to choose varieties that for sure give me tomatoes. In the Pacific Northwest, sometimes we get a short summer, and not a very hot summer. We want to choose varieties that definitely produce tomatoes. Here are some varieties: Early Girl, Willamette, Oregon Spring.
Hey, J-Dog.
Okay, Early Girl, Willamette, Oregon Spring, all kind of developed here in the Pacific Northwest. 4-hour shorter seasons. So for sure we get tomatoes. Now, if this is your very first tomato you ever grown, I'd recommend doing any cherry tomato, those small, sweet, pop it in your mouth tomatoes that you can eat right there and then on the patio, on the deck, in the garden. And you can have a full belly of tomatoes before you even enter the house. They're that good. And if you do those, by the way, there are two camps in the world. There are two different types of people in the world. There's the sun sugar and there's the sun gold. Not really, of course, but if you like the lighter yellow cherry tomatoes, Sun Sugar and Sun Gold are two tomatoes that I highly, highly recommend. Sun Sugar. No, Sun Gold. Sun Sugar. Sun Gold. Sun Sugar. Only after you have those for sure varieties, then you might add on an heirloom type of tomato that you've been wanting to grow and slice and eat. And it would be great if we get that hot summer. So the Cherokee purples, the black crims, the green zebras, the brandywines, all of those heirloom type varieties, sure, but only after you have the for sure varieties. After all that, I picked a Sun Gold. Just so you know, if you ever want to plant here at the Garden Corner, you may bring your containers from home or buy them here, but all the soil and the root power is no charge. You can leave the mess here nicely. So just as an option for you. One side note too, if you like, yes, you can get our app and you can reserve a table if you like to bring a group or come yourself, and you've got that table reserved for that day and for that hour, for whatever length of time you like. Anyways, we're gonna plant this. I'm gonna show you, this is the container we're going to do. This is roughly a 10-gallon container. Now I like this particularly, this is our passion pot is what we call it, because it also has a 3-gallon water reservoir. So this is going to be a display plant for the tables on our tomato tables. So anyways, let's get started then. Now we use our own container power. Yes, proud of this because this year we are able to bag the exact formula that we like and bag it ourselves. So it's kind of a fun process to bag our own soil. Now, potting soils in general have no nutrients in them. So no nutrients or very few nutrients. So what we want to do, and this is the second big tip for today, is to plant with root power. Now I want to make sure that all essential nutrients are available for root growth. We have these little sample packets at the planting bar. We sprinkle that all around. And it smells kind of fishy. It has bone meal in it. It has feather meal. It has glacial rock dust. It has fish meal in there, all kinds of good stuff. So all about root growth, and also has a mycorrhizae fungi in there so that it helps really get the roots out, because the better the roots do, of course, the better the plant's going to do, especially during the extremes, by the way. So during the hot summer, during the cold of winter. Now tomatoes aren't going to be around for winter time, but for your other plants as well. So we use it for our annuals, we use it for our perennials, our trees and shrubs. So everything that you plant, make sure you plant with root power. The other thing is later on, if you do have an issue, you know, a leaf is turning a weird color or growing strangely, what we can do right then and there is rule out any nutrient deficiency. So it's kind of rests your mind back there. It says, hey, we're okay. Now, tomato, soil, root power, we're ready to go. Now, there are some different schools of planting. I'd like to show you both of them. So we have our tomato plant, right? Some folks like to plant it this way and then kind of keep the tail up, or the tip up. Some folks like to plant it deep. Because the neat thing about a tomato, a solanum, is that they can develop roots through their stem. So it's kind of unusual. So of course, the more roots you get, the better the plant will do. So let's plant that deep, shall we? So I'm going to have a science to it too. They says, well, I don't want to strip the leaves, I want to cut the leaves. So you can do that as well, any which way you like. So I'm going to plant it about this deep, all the way down. Nice thing about planting, by the way, is you get your hands in the soil, and there is something about that that is connecting. I'm not sure what the right word is, but it's grounding. So just getting your hands in the soil, like, oh, it feels really good. Especially on a kind of coolish day like this, it's really fun. By the way, I love the smell of tomato plants. Tomato plants in Bacopa, by the way. So both of them are both of them have this wonderful smell. I wanted to start out with this product, and it's called Season Starter. I used to call it Walls of Water. But essentially it is a wall of water. I don't know if that's a trademark thing, but I've got it as a season starter. And it opens up to a little round hole. Okay, so let's give this a try. First, I'm just going to stabilize it just by filling a few of these holes here, a few of these columns. It'd be nice if our hose wasn't kinked. For this, I'm just going to lower the table a bit so I can fill it up a little bit easier. So let's give that some water. There's something about watering I like, something about watching it visually, like, here's a drink of water nicely. And I like to give this a nice good soaking in the beginning, especially on fresh potting soil. The peat in potting soil oftentimes is actually hydrophobic. It sheds away the water until it's thoroughly soaked, and then it takes in the water nicely. So there are a number of ways that you can stake your tomato. This is just one, of course. Why would we use something like this? Why do we need that? The reason being is that tomato plants will grow large, and they'll grow inside, and oftentimes when they start to bloom and the bloom turns into the fruit is what starts to weigh things down. And cherry tomatoes, not so much, because they'll just be smaller limbs and smaller of them, but sometimes you get full branches of tomatoes, so it really weighs down the actual branch. So these trellises, these cages, give the tomato something to kind of lean against. And what that does is keeps your tomatoes off the ground. As soon as they hit the ground, they rot out quicker. And so you want to keep the tomatoes nicely in the air. Okay, we've planted the tomato. We got our right sized pot, good potting soil in there. We put our root power, we put our walls of water to keep it nice and cozy and warm at nighttime. It's gonna really grow fast. We have a tomato cage, so it has something to lean on. Some folks just let it rip and roar. Now, if you want pretty tomatoes, a trick to do this is by anytime you visit your tomato, watch your tomato, check in on your tomato, is take a look at this little guy right here. You notice that little, here's the main stem and here's a branch. It's this little side shoot here. If you pluck off those guys, anytime you see them, that is going to encourage the fruit to come out toward the edge and bloom. So instead of branching, it's going to be growing some blooms. And what makes this pretty, especially if you have this in a container, by your front door, on your patio, or in a window, or in a raised bed that's in the front of your house, to have pretty tomatoes, is you want the actual fruit to be on the outside of the plant. Instead of having to dig in there and be a wild mess, you actually have quite a nice, elegant, beautiful, you get all of the pretty fruit toward the outside, so it hangs toward the outside. That's really an attractive plant. So anyway, anytime you visit them, pluck those little guys that are right in between those branching, and you'll notice that you'll get a prettier looking plant. Just some particular tips and tricks on tomatoes. You can do it in a container. You can do it in hanging baskets. I'll show you tips and tricks on that as well. So guys, that's the show for the day. Always live your